Welcome, Bleep Bloop Bloom here. And you can't tell, but it has been a while. Old Bleep has been dealing with some eye strain and some other nonsense. Looks like things are on the mend. Hardly perfect, but have moved back to the old desktop, not squinting up at the TV anymore. And so part of my goal here is I had some comments, I think, since episode recording 24 or so, when I had to do the little move. Definitely had some inconsistent audio, right? Some inconsistent audio, little black bands at the right and left. I think they're still there, actually. They're just a little bit tinier. But, so this is kind of a sound check. For all you folks that were like, hey, background music is too loud, can't quite hear you all the time, and so on, should have much more consistent audio now. But I think I have the exact right settings for you to hear me okay.
Ready to go.
But still be able to hear, these fools when they want to do their things. So part of this is an audio check, but part of this is about the next run that I am going to be doing. Thought I would throw some possibilities out there and maybe see what you guys what you guys think in comments. So I'm up to about sesh 46 or so, about 10 years in to Giga-Science-China land, and I mean, I'll just tell you right now, not only did we hit 30K in 9 years, but we're making sick resources, and I'm gonna at least go to Jupiter or whatnot, but that run is not gonna go, I think, past 55 or 60 or so. Simply because by that time it's just going to be obvious that the aliens are getting a curb stomped. We'll go further than we did in Mars Dyson. Mars Dyson we pretty much stopped about 9.5 years in after we took Ceres. We'll go a little further just to kind of see what it's like. But yeah. So the point is, after Giga-Science-China, we got choices to make, and by we I mean you all. What is Bleep going to do next for, what is his theme run, meme run, whatever you wacky kids call it these days? What is going to be the goal? And so I thought I'd just take a few minutes to outline some possibilities. Okay? So the first possibility, just get out of the way. I've mentioned it many times. It is probably the most challenging of all the possibilities I'm going to outline, and that is the Tropic of Cancer run. Tropic of Cancer is around 23, 24, 27. It's some number of degrees latitude. And the question is, the question is, should I do this next? So the idea is that you can only take territories that are south of the Tropic of Cancer unless you have a claim from some tech. What this means is that in the long run, China is out, Russia is out, India is out, the EU is out, except for little dinky things like parts of the EU here. The US is out, except for Republic of California and the Republic of Texas. If you get them to splinter, you can actually unify those with a long chain of unifications all the way down into Bolivia, South America. Bolivia, Unidad Colombia, going into Mexico, Aztlan, Texas and California. 800 million pop South America that goes all the way up there. Kind of cool. That's part of it, right? You can also get the Caliphate. All you have to do is take, Ethiopia. Ethiopia gets a claim on Egypt. Egypt gets a claim on the Caliphate, and boom, you got Caliphate land. And you can take Kazakhstan and the other stands and so on and so forth. But thing about this run, the Tropic of Cancer run, is that you're never getting into China, the US, except for, as noted, Russia, the EU, and so on. And that's going to be different than some of the other ones I'm going to be talking about, okay? So Tropic of Cancer run, basically what I did it the one time before, it was really Thailand, Indonesia, Australia to start with, because these are probably the best areas south of the equator. Then we moved into Brazil, which is kind of a basket case in the 2026 start. I might have to do 2022. This just because it's got a big chunky bit of MC that's possible. And then you go into Africa slowly. And we would probably do Mars Dyson. We're going to need our science from somewhere. It's not going to be from Earth, not very quickly. So we would probably end up doing a Mars Dyson sphere. It's going to be a slower run. It's going to be more challenging because we're not going to be 8 steps ahead of the aliens like we have been in some of the previous runs. Hopefully we'll be a few steps ahead, but maybe not that many. So anyway, that's one possibility, Tropic of Cancer. Another possibility that is on my list, and this will be done sooner or later, but will it be done next? It is up to you. Is the Protectorate UN run. So these jerks over here, nobody likes playing the Protectorate. I played forever. I played 2,000-3,000 hours without playing the Protectorate, not finishing a game with them. But the Protectorate, as of a few months ago, now has the UN faction project. The UN faction project only costs $500K, and it allows the U.S. to cede territory to the UN in New York, and that little UN New York has a claim on every single region on the planet. Some of them are hostile claims, so they would have to be taken by force. But it's a beast. The idea being, you take the UN and slowly you make a one world nation. That's right, everybody under 6 pips, and that's it. Also, to make it a little bit more challenging, we want to make this a utopia, right? My alternate canon for the Protectorate is that they don't really trust humanity to go out in the solar system. They don't like the aliens, but they also don't trust humanity. They're very cynical, and so they want, to educate humanity, basically make a nice little utopia on Earth, and then once we're all a big happy family, 180K GDP PC. Education 12 plus, inequality 1, sustainability 10. Once we've got that, that the theory is that maybe it's okay for us to explore the stars. And so that's going to be, that's going to take us to what? It's going to be about 3,000 CP that we're going to need. It's a lot of map painting. And eventually we take care of the aliens too. We're not going to let the aliens get away with their being alienating. So the part of the run is also to basically play possum and then just stomp the aliens later on. It's a lot of map painting, not exactly the most gripping play for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so while it's kind of, the end result is very cool, is it challenging? It's fun. But there's no limitations on where you start. Like a lot of meme runs, you got limitations on what you can do to start, like in the Tropic of Cancer run, like some of the other ones we're going to talk about. Not really any limitations in the Protectorate. I mean, you got to play the Protectorate as your biggest limitation. I mean, gross. But we would probably do a combination of Giga-Science-China and Mars Dyson, which could be kind of cool to play around with, see how good that is compared to the independent strategies. Might not be as good as either one of them on their own. We'd find that out. Another possibility, I haven't done this in a while, it's been a long time, is the old Caliphate run. So, a couple of varieties of this. The first, the hardest one, is, I'm going to bring up the old tech tree here. The hardest one is your starting claims. What you are allowed to take is anything in Africa, or anything that the Caliphate has a claim on. And that's pretty much just the Middle East, right? I mean, some parts of Africa, obviously, and then the Middle East. So basically, you get these areas here as possibilities for start spots. So you're usually starting in the Middle East or Africa. But it gradually expands, right? I don't like the kind of meme theme runs, however you want to call it, that end up where, it's, you can only be in South America. Well, there's just not enough CP to make that interesting. Make that part of the Tropic of Cancer. So in this particular run, the idea is that you can start in Africa, take any of these Caliphate spots, basically Middle East, and once you research the Caliphate, now you have access, you can take the Greater Caliphate spots. Once you research the Greater Caliphate, now you can, once this is researched, now you can take the House of Islam spots. And once you research the House of Islam, you can start breaking into anywhere you want, but only after you have every single capital that is under Caliphate, Greater Caliphate, House of Islam, or anywhere in Africa. Okay? So, obviously, it's a challenging run. Africa, especially with the microstates having gotten nerfed since the last time I tried this, a very challenging run early on, but you always have that promise of once you've figured this out, once you've gotten the House of Islam researched and everything taken for all those capitals, then you can break into the EU, steal their MC, break into China, steal their MC or whatnot. So a very challenging run, but unlike Tropic of Cancer, it does give you a window, or a window gives you an escape hatch in a way, right? A lot of work, but once you've got the House of Islam fully established, which is hardly trivial, you can go other places. And you kind of need to, because frankly, there's just not, especially after you start unifying, there's just not enough CP for, you know, it's kind of, to me, I find it kind of boring if my CP cap is 800 and I've got 400 used after mergers and I've just got 400 just sitting there. I don't know. I find that kind of dull. So that is kind of the hard version, the easier version, and maybe a little bit interesting in some ways, maybe not interesting in others, not more interesting in others, would be to do the exact same thing except start with, and you basically kind of jump to the end, where you can take anything in the House of Islam or Greater Caliphate or Caliphate from the very beginning of the game. So instead of having that limitation, you know, if you can start with anything House of Islam, then you could take Kazakhstan early on. You could take some of the other stands, right, which are frankly better than your average place in Africa. So again, challenging run, and more challenging these days because I'll tell you, when I was doing Tropic of Cancer, when I was doing these Africa runs, microstates like the Seychelles were a lot better. You know, back in the day, Micronesian states, this wasn't 13.9, this was 23. All right, or around there. It was 20 plus. Same thing with, say, the Polynesian states. So microstates got nerfed, which is a little annoying, and the way I would make MC, because as you know, if you've watched my runs, MC is super important. The way I would make MC is basically go into I can't build anything right now. Basically, go into extreme Earth orbit and build a bunch of op center stuff. Now, you would require spoils to upkeep and so on, but you could get basically a net of 5 MC by building solar panels, 8 op centers, 1 for 1's MC each, and of course the orbital would cost 3. So 8 minus 3 is 5. You build 8 of those. Now you've got 40 crucial MC that you've got available because you have spammed extreme Earth orbit with these orbitals full of op centers. As you guys know, you might, if you're a new player, you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, right? Now, op centers are 1 per. They have a lot of upkeep, and they are just a straight 4 MC. So you can't do that anymore. You're not going to get nearly as much. So in a Tropic of Cancer or in an Africa run, that sort of window where we'll spend a lot of spoils to do upkeep and get 40 MC to work with, it ain't there. And what are we going to do? How are we going to find it? Honestly, I got no freaking idea. So that's going to be something I'm going to be figuring out. So far we've talked about Tropic of Cancer. We've talked about Protectorate UN. We've talked about a couple of possible Caliphate runs. Other possibilities, an EU start, just to see what that's like. I mean, I'll tell you, if I just do a straight EU start, I'm going to try to get into China as soon as I can, but just to see what it's like for good old bleep, doing an EU start. If I really wanted to jam a sharp stick in my eye, it would be an EU start with no spoils, but No spoils runs are not bad later on. If you guys have seen my runs, you know I try to run as little spoils as possible, mid-game, late game. Early game, when you've got all these orgs coming out and you just can't buy any of them, it's just not fun. It's just painful, right? And, is it a challenge? Yes. Is it a fun challenge? But that's out there. Another possibility is kind of a straight run where we just jam everything we can. No limitations, but we try to fix climate change in less than 25 years. And I think that this would be very doable. And by fix, I mean go to safe levels. So knocking down atmospheric carbon dioxide obviously is going to creep up, knocking it down to 325. The way I've done this in the past is literally built 1,000 media centers, and that enabled a whole bunch of direct investment into environment. Just across the board, basically. Take over every single place you can. DI. You can almost get as much. And, obviously we've got to drive everybody's sustainability to 10 and so on and so forth. Again, not necessarily a super challenge run if we don't put other limitations on ourselves. But, it's interesting. And it would be something a little bit different. So, and you know what? I'm going to stop here. You guys might have ideas that I haven't even thought about. And so I will turn it over to the community to tell me what you guys think. So I'll probably create some comments, and you guys can like the ones that you, for the runs that you like the most. Again, Tropic of Cancer, Protectorate UN, Caliphate version 1, I guess House of Islam version 2, something EU-based, and maybe just a fix climate change as fast as humanly possible. But if you got other ideas, let me know, and I'll talk to you soon.